and we are now recording. So, Yelena, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. So everyone, my name is Yelena, and again, I'm Watson Analytics System Administrator, and this is going to be our second session tonight. And here is the agenda for tonight's session. We're going to talk about custom data visualizations. We're going to talk about dashboards and infographics. We're going to talk about creating and using the Storybook, and I'm going to show you the Analytic Exchange site, and we're going to talk about upcoming group work, and there is a bonus, but you have to stay through the end, all right, or at least watch through the end. And I'm going to give you some more links for useful resources, and of course, question and answers. But before we get into what's on analytics, here are some important reminders. When you're working with cloud applications, you want to avoid using your browser back and forward button. Just pretend that you don't have it. Another reminder that there is no recycle bin. Right? When you delete something, it's gone forever. And this is the menu. You want to use the menu. It's located in the upper left corner. And remember that when you click on the logo, it's going to take you to the landing page. All right? That's a shortcut. All right. Now, today we're going to talk about custom visualizations, and I'm gonna share my screen now. Share my screen, and I'll be going with the slides and the hands-on in parallel. So let me share, and I have a copy of same presentation on my desktop. All right. So do you remember last time we focused on the data and discover? So basically, data is you upload your data and you refine it, so you could add some calculated columns, some groups, some hierarchies. Then you go into this tab and you build some models, right? And most of you have done a decision tree model for the continuous target and the categorical target variable, right? And you've done some additional visualizations. And then today we're going to go into the display, right? So let's start here. Remember what you did last time up to today. You clicked on a data set, right? And then you see a list of suggested questions, right? And you picked one of the suggestions, right? Or you either went in here, how to ask your question, and you picked something from the list, and so on, right? Today, I'm gonna take a different approach. If you scroll down, you see this visualizations, right? Create your own visualization. Like, for example, I want to pick a dial, right? So now, take a look at this. What you see at the bottom, these are the slots. And if the slots has a little star, it means that it's required. By required, I mean that you have to specify something, right? You have to specify something. Otherwise, you don't see a visualization. So the way to specify something is that you can either drag and drop these fields, right, from here. See this? This is your slide out panel, and these are the fields. You can just drag and drop into the slot that you want to set. Alternatively, you can do this. You can click here, and you can pick the fields that you want. Like, for example, let me pick the student GPA, right? So here, this is really good for comparison. Well, unfortunately, I did not pick anything else, right? So this is 100. What I'm going to do right now is that I'm going to look at the GPA by class rank, right? So this is a comparison. I'm going to pick the class rank. There we go. That's it. So right now, I'm comparing which class rank has a higher GPA, right? And you can see that, right? You can actually hover. See this? You can see 0.31, and then this one is 0.34. See, so you have a longer ring, and so on, right? So this is useful for comparison. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this, and I'm going to rename it as a dial. This is my dial visualization. Now I'm going to show you another one, another custom visualization, and it's going to be the, let's do that. I'm going to click on this tab, right? And then I'm going to scroll down here, and this time I'm going to select the, let's select the word cloud. Here it is, word cloud, right? So the word cloud are also useful for comparison. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to select the number of absences in here. So this is a number of absences. It's going to be the size of the word, right? And I want to be interested by the county, right? I'm going to check the county. In which county the students missed classes the most, so to speak, right? Oops, there we go. So here are my counties, and here is the number of absences. But remember that what I'm looking at the sum. I want to be looking at the average, right? So what you could do is you can click here, summarize, and you can select average. Now look at what I did. I made this selection on a plot, on a visualization itself. It will not affect other visualizations on my workbook. It only affects this one because I explicitly selected here, right? So, and notice that here I have to fill only the required slots, right? That has a little asterisk. Other slots are optional. However, what I could do is I could look at it by the class rank, and notice that I can also drag and drop, right? So what's going to happen right now, it's going to use a different color code for each class rank, right? It's going to use a different color code, and at the same time, the word size is the average number of absences, right? The larger the word, the higher is the number of absences. And this one, I'm just going to call it as absence word cloud, right? There we go. Now what I'm going to do is I have to save it always, right? So, oops, looks like part of the WebEx interface is covering up the save button. But anyway, you always have to save it. So one way to do that is if I close this, if I try to exit this, it's gonna ask me if I want to save, and I select save. Okay, and now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna name it as student findings, right? So this is my workbook, and I'm gonna click save. And where did it save? Oh, wait a minute, I got an error. Why did I get an error? It's because I already have a discovery with the same name, so I have to rename it. Remember that in your personal area, you can have only one discovery with the same name. So let's do like this. There we go. It took it now. Alright. So where is it? It's here. And I can reopen it, and I can keep on adding to it. Right? I can keep on adding visualizations. But right now, let's do something else. Let's start with displays. And we are going to be creating more visualizations on the fly as we go. So basically, I have a bunch of visualizations, and I'm going to show you more custom visualizations, I promise. And I'm going to be doing it while I'll be showing display. Oh, why did I X out? Oh, I'll tell you that. I'll tell you why did I X out. It's because, take a look at this. I have this open. Well, you won't see it probably on my screen. But the problem is at the very top of the screen, I see something that has to do with one of the WebEx panel. So I could not, well, I wanted to save it. I wanted to save this display. But the problem is, I would have to, the problem is here, one of the panels, one of the WebEx panels is covering up the top right of the screen. So I could not hit the save button. So for this reason, I just exited out and saved. Oh, okay, sure, I'm glad I answered the question. It was just my little trick. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is, I have this open now, and let's see what I want to do. I'm gonna go back here, and I'm gonna do the display, my first display. Okay, so take a look at this. I'm gonna click on display, and I'm going to create brand new display from the scratch, right, from scratch. I'm going to select the dashboard. There are different types of displays, and we're going to do the dashboard and infographics and a storybook today. We're going to hit them all. So let's do the dashboard first, and I'm going to do create. Okay, Now I have to select the layout. For the first one, I'm going to select this one, this layout. Okay, so this is going to be, this is my first tab, right? And I can, one of the advantages of using a dashboard is that I can split my findings into multiple tabs, right? Perhaps I can have a tab on class rank. I could have a tab on academic performance, whether the student is at risk of academic failure, and another tab could be on GPA, something like that. I can organize based on topics, and also I can filter the visualizations at the tab level, right? So to add visualizations, I have several options here. Let me show you what the options are. I can go in to my personal folder and I can pick up what I just did, right? And I just did 2 visualizations, right? I have absences word cloud, and I'm going to do this. Watch, drag and drop, but take a look at this. I want to place my mouse on top of this arrow, okay? There we go. Here it is. So this is one visualization, right? What I could also do is I can add another one, right? So this is going to be another one, and this is also for the class rank. And then, do you remember that we had additional, do you remember that on your last homework assignment, you received the recording of the model, right? So here it is, class rank drivers. I'm going to add it here. And you also saw the class rank decision tree. I'm going to throw it in here, right? So this tab, I'm going to focus on the class rank, this whole tab. I throw in the decision tree that you saw in your video, right? And I'm going to put the drivers. Everything here is going to be about the class rank. And I'm going to rename it class rank, right? Now what I'm going to do is, I can add another one, another tab. And I'm going to, this time let's select this visualization, right? And now I could add perhaps, let's do a map, right? This is really interesting one. So since I did not do a map already, right? So I'm gonna do it from scratch. To do the new visualization from scratch, see this? You have this, new discovery. You click on the new discovery. Here, it's going to take you to the list of data sets, and I'm going to pick risk students, right? I could pick any questions that is given to me, or I could just do the custom. But right now, oh, I like this. Let's pick this one. It's going to help us a little bit because I already have this county, right? This is absences. So basically my color code is absences, but I can always change it, right? I can always change it. I can change this to the student GPA perhaps, right? This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to change it to student GPA, and the color code is going to show the GPA. So for each county, I'm now showing the average student's GPA. The darker the color code, right, the higher the GPA. So basically, whenever you want to do a map, you can just pick any map, right, from suggested questions, and then just change the fields. That's one way to do it, right? So now, here it is. So I have my GPA, but I can do more. Look at this. There is another thing. You can do a little bubble inside each area, inside each county. And the bubble size could be perhaps the number of absences, right? So to do that, I can click here, and I can select it from the list. Or I could drag also. I could pick up the field and drag it into here, right? So here, I'm saying the size of this little circle is proportional to the relative number of absences. Now remember, I have another dimension here, and this one is going to be the cost, right? So each color code is going to correspond to the cost, right? So now, if my list of variables is long, this is what I could do. I could type it in here and do the search, right? Discounted cost. Okay, I pick this one. So the cost is going to be the color code, right? And for some reason it's doing the sum. So instead of doing the sum, I can do the summarize, and I want to look at the average cost, right? I don't want to look at how much money was spent in the state. I want to see it in the area, right? I want to see the average cost, right? Per county, rather. Okay, now what I could also do is I could further break it down by the student risk, right? So I'm gonna type it in risk, and it's gonna give me, it's found it here. Okay, so now I have a separate map based on a risk. Here it means the students who are at risk, and this is not at risk. But notice that it's different, right? It's different. Average GPA is probably, it's supposed to be actually lower, right? You can look at it color by color here. For some reason, at-risk students have a higher average GPA, which is, well, a little bit unexpected. But anyhow, this is how you do it, okay? I'm just showing you how to do it. And then you need to, of course, interpret the findings. So right now, my visualization, this is called a focus mode. I can minimize it, okay? Now, I did one visualization intentionally, and here I'm going to rename this as GPA. Oops. I have to click on this, and then I have to pick rename, and let's say GPA, and then I'm gonna say absences, and I'm gonna say county, right? This is by county. This is my map. But when I name these tabs, I have to keep in mind that my names have to be descriptive, and I'll show you why. Eventually, the way I name it here, this is how it's going to show up in the storybook that I'm going to create. I'm going to create a storybook today. So here, this is my first display. To create the storybook, I have to have several displays. This is my first one, right? So that looks familiar, huh? Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I have to save this dashboard. But the problem is, well, let's try to trick this. I zoom in, then I click on this ellipsis, and this menu shows up in here. See this? This is one way to trick this. When the top of the screen is blocked, I just zoomed in, and the save button appears here. So I'll go save, right? And I'm gonna save it in my personal area, and let's call it student rank, right? Let's call it like this. And let me go ahead and hit save, and this is one of my displays, right? So now what I'm going to do is I can go back to my landing page just by clicking on the logo. But notice here, if I click on this arrow, it tells me what I currently have open. This is very important because I'll explain to you when you start sharing files. Even if I'm not logged in at the moment, right? I still have this to open. I still have a lock on these two files, right? Right now it does not matter because they're in my personal area. Okay, so now I did two displays. Now I'm going to show you something different. I'm going to show you how to do the infographic. I need to be on the display page. I'm going to hit new display, and now I'm going to say the infographic. Basically, infographic is a long page with visualization, and you cannot define the filter on a subset of visualizations. You can either define on a single visualization or everything, all right? You cannot break down the visualizations here. So I'm gonna do create, and it's going to be one page, one single page, and I'm going to choose this layout. Okay, so here is my layout. Now what I can do is, similarly, I can select visualizations that I already have, or I can just go ahead and create the new ones. I'm gonna do the combination. Now here, I think this is what we did last time, right? Do you remember we did this last time? So let's go ahead and do this. Watch, I'm going to select this and I'm going to drag this, right? So let me point this out. When you create a discovery, right, that gets saved on the Discover tab, it's reusable. You can reuse it in multiple displays, multiple dashboards, and infographics. On the other hand, if I create a visualization here on a fly, I will not be able to reuse it in another display. Okay, so this is the main difference. Anything that I create here on a fly, I will not be able to reuse it, right? Okay, so here, this is what I mean by the focus mode. When you click on this corner here, right, you expand the visualization. And this looks similar to the display interface. I can go ahead, if I wanted to, I can apply filters, or I can just modify my fields, and so on, right? I can do similar changes to what I did in the display. And any change that I make will be visible only inside this infographic. It will not be applicable to the displays that I imported, right? So this is what you do. Now you minimize that, and I'm going to add more. So this is my student at risk, right? Remember last time we worked on predicting who is at risk. So this is a spiral model. I'm going to add that, and now I'm going to create some additional visualizations. Okay, so let's do this. Let's create something like let's do this. Let's do something more advanced, and it's going to be the heat map. Okay, so what we need to do is you're going to click on the new visualization, new discovery. Okay, here it is, right? And I'm going to select risk students, and now I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to select this one. See this? Now remember, each visualization has a different purpose. Heat map shows the relationships, right? So I'm going to select my heat map, and I'm going to go in the focus mode just by clicking on this corner here. And oops. Now remember this. Oops. Oh, I have to zoom in. It's because I increased the zoom. My fault. Alright. So here I'm supposed to see, oops, let's minimize it. See, sometimes the problem is sometimes Watson Analytics is reading from cache. So you have to, when you see this, what happens with me right now, you could either clear cache or you can just delete the visualization and try it again. Okay, so I'll click delete. See this, for some reason, sometimes it's not refreshing. So what you could do is, let's do this, let's exit, if it lets me. And now I'm going to, when I try to exit, it's giving me an option to save. So I'm going to do this, I'm going to save it. I'm going to click save. And now I'm going to name it as, let's name it as Student at Risk Infographic, right? And I'm going to save it in my personal area. Okay, now I'm going to go back in. See this? It's in here. I'm going to reopen it, and now hopefully it will do it. Now when I open something, it's gonna open it in a view mode, view only mode. I have to click on a pencil to switch to the edit mode to be able to edit it again, right? So I'm going to click here. Yes, it worked. See, my trick worked. what I did was I just saved it, and then I exited it, and I reopened the file. So now what I'm gonna do is I have to specify the slot. The slots here are required. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to select cost here. So each color is going to be the student cost, right? So let's see. If I don't see my field, what I could do is this. I could search for it. I can type in cost, right? It's gonna give me, okay, this is my cost. Right now, it's just showing the same color. It's because I did not specify my X value and I did not specify my Y value, right? I need to specify what I want to use for the columns. So here, let's see, let's use a class size for the rows. And in here, class size is it's discrete. It was binned, right? So now if I don't see it, oops, I can go ahead and type in, right? I can type in class. I can type in class and it's gonna show up in here. So this is a class size, right? So now I'm seeing a big change, right? Now I'm seeing this. Okay, another thing that I have to specify is the columns, right? Well, I don't have to, but I'm going to. Okay, so here it is. So now what I'm doing is that, look, every column, it corresponds to the rank, right? Student rank. Every row is a class size. So this is a less than 100 students. This one is between 100 to 500. This is 500 plus students. This is 400 to 500 and so on, right? So what I could also do is I could do the multiplier. Basically, when I do the multiplier, and if I pick for my multiplier, I pick gender, or if I pick, well, let's pick gender this time, I'm gonna get a separate plot for each gender, and I can use this for comparison, right? If I'm writing my paper, see this, like for example, I can say the class size 500, right, first quartile, the gender has no impact, right, because the color code is approximately the same, right? See this? So I have this side by side, and I could say the gender has no impact. On the other hand, if I had a significant change in colors, right, then I could say, there is an impact, something like that. And this is useful for comparison, right? And I could, if I wanted to, I could add another variable for the size of this, for the size of each square. I could do that if I wanted to. Okay, so let's minimize this. Okay. Also, what you could do, you're not limited to visualizations. You can also add widgets. You can add the URL for the picture, and you can add text, right? So here is my widgets, and let's do that. Let's add. Oops. Like I said earlier, it's caching once in a while, so you have an option to exit the visualization, and then you exit when it happens. You save it, you exit the visualization and reopen it. All right. Once in a while, it will do this. Okay, so I have to change my zoom to be able to save, and it has to do with it has to do with me sharing the screen. So now, oops, there we go. Oops. Now I'm going to try to, here it is. Here are my buttons. So when I zoom in, my buttons will show here. This is what happens when I zoom in. So now I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna save this. Not save as, but save. Okay. I can save it because I don't want to lose it. And now if I want to add widgets, I'm going to click. And what I expect to see is this. I can add shapes and I can add my text, right? So sometimes in a visualization, I want to add an explanation of what I'm doing, right? Or I can just go ahead and add shapes, right? It should be, yes, it worked. Okay, I'm just showing you as a demonstration. That's all. Now, notice that here, if I wanted to, I could add filter, but if I do that, the filter will only apply to, it will apply to all visualizations. I cannot do the subset like I did for the dashboard. Right now, what I'll do is I'll save this. Save this. Nope, I clicked the wrong button. Here it is. Actually, this is what happens. Every time when you have this drop down, see this? This is a drop down. Save it, and reset. Whenever you click on this icon, it automatically picks the first option from the drop down. Alright. So now what I'll do is, let me minimize this. Oops. Okay, so now I'm gonna exit from here. I'm gonna go back to the landing page. Okay, I'm back at the landing page. I have, what, 3 visualizations total, right? What I'm gonna do right now is I'm going to start creating my storybook. I'm gonna start creating my storybook. To do that, this is what I'm gonna do. Look at this new display. I'm going to choose expert storybook, and I'm gonna say student findings storybook, right? There we go. Now I'm gonna hit create. In the beginning, my storybook is empty, right? This is a name, and Yelena made a typo. Take a look at this. I can just right click and correct. But this also depends on your browser, okay? This also depends on the browser. But these corrections that I made, it did not correct the file name. It just corrected it here, the name. I could always save it and then exit and rename. I can always rename my storybook later. Here, I can put the brief description. Right? Now here, I can go in and at my desktop, oops, at my somewhere, see this, I've got a lot of, okay, I'm gonna click on the desktop, and this is a picture that I had in mind. Right? I can change my background, and you want your color code, you want your background here to match your topic, right? Usually you want it to match the topic that you're doing. Now, I'm gonna continue here. What is this? Each of these tiles is going to be the page in your storybook, and it's going to take a little bit of careful planning, because when I watch your storybook, the order in which you place the pages here, this is an order in which I'll see the findings. So let me do this. This is what we did today, right? I'm going to drag this here. So this is going to be my first page in the storybook, right? And I could rename this, right? I could change this name, and okay, I can say student findings 1. I can just rename it, but this does not affect the name of the display. This only affects the name of this page, and I'll show you how to preview it. But first, you can just add a thumbnail, and I'm just gonna select. I'm just selecting something, but normally you would select something that best describes your visualization. And oops, I have to change my zoom. Here we go. Okay, now what I'm gonna do, I'm going to add another page, right? And this is gonna be our infographic, and this one, I have another one, right? I'm going to add that too. There may have been something else that we did last time, probably. I'm going to add this here. So I have 3 right now. Some of you might be wondering how many pages I can have maximum. That's a good question. I don't have the answer at the moment. I tried adding 5 and it worked. I tried adding 6 and it also worked. Okay, so right now our storybook is in a edit mode, right? In order to preview it, we have to get into the view mode, right? But before we do that, See this? This is important. I can show you something else what we can do. We can add, this is called annotation. Annotation is a description of what your storybook is doing. So, take a look at this. I can click here, and now, do you see the problem? And the problem is, when Yelena created the storybook last time, she did not name her tabs, right? And because Yelena did not name her tabs, it shows in here as Untitled 1, Untitled 2. See, this was a dashboard. This is a dashboard. And it shows as Untitled 1, Untitled 2 because Watson Analytics Administrator Yelena did something wrong, right? She did not rename these tabs. Well, I did this intentionally, right? Just to show you what's gonna happen. And my user is gonna be confused, right? Your user is instructor grading the work, they'll be confused. So now what I can do is use this explanation, and I can explain what I'm looking at, right? Like, for example, I can say risk drivers, right? You want it to be descriptive, and I can say add, right? This adds the annotation. What I could also do is I could annotate my visualizations themselves, right? Like here, I just say risk is a target. Well, I just put something randomly, right? So this is like an explanation, right, of what my visualization is doing. But you have to be careful, because if I reload this data, right? Suppose that it's possible to reload the data, and if I label the maximum point of the plot, right, it may no longer be the case if I reload my data. So I have to be careful when I label points like this. Okay, so now suppose that I put an annotation that I don't like. I just hit this to delete. Okay, so I'm gonna click OK. Now what we can do is we can save it. But again, see this, I have part of the screen covered up. So, but when I zoom in, watch, when I zoom in, my buttons are going to show up on this side, and I'm gonna hit save. Okay. So when I made the recording, I had to disable some of the panels. Okay. So I did that right now. So see this? Now we are going to click on these glasses. Whenever you see the storybook has two modes, the edit mode and the view mode. I'm going to switch to view mode right now. So I click on the glasses. Right now I'm in the view mode, so I cannot make any changes, but I can preview. Here it says that I have 3 tab findings and 1 data asset. It means that my visualizations in this storybook are based on 1 data set. Okay, and I have a total of 3 displays. So in this case, I've got 2 dashboards and 1 infographic. And notice what happens when I click here. I can see the data set that was used in this storybook. And you can have more than 1 data set. The storybook can be based on more than 1 data set. And what I could do in here, I could toggle between my tab findings. And here, this is the data used by each tab finding. Okay? So here, in this case, I have only 1 data set. If I had 2 data sets, I could pick the data set I wanted to, and here this would be pre-populated with tab findings that use this selected data set. Now, earlier I mentioned that the data can be reloaded. See this, replace, and then if I wanted to, see this, I got this warning, but I'm not gonna do it. But if I wanted to, I could replace the data with another sample, perhaps, right? And that would rebuild my visualizations based on a different sample. And of course, my visualizations are going to look differently. So that's a reason you need to be really careful when you put notes, right? So here it is. Now, as a customer, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to click on the tab findings. And see this, I'm a customer. And what's happening? I'm confused. Why? Because what is Untitled 1? What am I looking at? Huh? I don't know. Well, here, this is my note. I understand that part. This is the annotation, and I can hide the annotations, and I can show the annotation. Right? As a user, I can click here, and it's going to show me the annotation. Right? It's going to show me. Right now, it's trying to compute the drivers, but in general, clicking on the annotation, it's supposed to show me the text. Right? There is another problem. Oh, see this? It's showing me the text right now. But there is another problem with this page. When you have 4 visualizations on a page, it's going to take longer to load. It's a little bit harder to read. Well, of course, you can just close this panel, but something to keep in mind. If you're doing it as a presentation, right? Suppose that your TA or your instructor is going to go into your shared folder and actually see the work that you created, right? You need to worry about the presentation. This is no good, right? Elena is going to lose points. Elena is not going to get a good grade for this because take a look at this. What is this? What is Untitled, right? It's unclear. So, anyway, and you want to make sure there are no spelling errors if you're doing it for the presentation. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on the error, and this is my next page in the top findings, right? Which was the infographics, right? The infographic. It's going to take long to load, of course. So now I can go to the third page, right? It won't let me until it's loaded. This is how I navigate as a user between pages. But see this is a problem. The storybook may or may not answer all questions that I have about the data, right? So I have, see this is a page 3, and it's always gonna take a little bit of time to load it because I'm doing this and sharing the screen at the same time, so it takes a little bit of bandwidth. Okay. Now notice that here I did a little bit better job because I put descriptive name, class rank, and I named it GPA absences by county. So here, even though it's taken a while to load, it's easier for my instructor or TA to understand what I'm doing here, right? So now, what I also could do is, I'm gonna click on home, and right now I'm on home. This is a home on my storybook, and I should have an option to ask additional questions about my data, right? So basically, this can keep you awake all night if you get too excited. So we should not be getting too excited here. But if I do this, if I do ask a question, and now I have to zoom in or zoom out a little bit. Okay, so now if I do ask a question, I have an option to take the same data set that I was using, the same data set that I used for to build the storybook. I can build additional visualizations on it, right? So here is the data I can enter my questions about the data, perhaps what is the relationship between the class size and the class rank, right? What is the relationships? It's taken a little bit. Okay, what is the relationship between class size and class rank, right? Here we go, and I'm just gonna click enter, and it's gonna give me the options. See this? And I can pick my visualization again. See this? Now what I could do is I could put this one. This one is a network, right? Class size and class rank. I can do that, and now what it's gonna do is it's going to create a new discovery set, right? It will create a new discovery set, and I can save this discovery set, and I can create another display, and I can add this display to my storybook. Okay, this is what I can do, but this is loading. It's a bit, well, you have to be patient because I'm sharing my screen, and It depends on other stuff that I have running on my laptop right now. Okay? So while this is loading, here are our slides, right? So let's do a quick review. While this is loading, what I did for you is I summarized the custom visualizations in the slides here. And I have not showed you all of them, but I did show you how to do the heat map visualizations, right? And I'm going to show you more. Okay? And I did not show you how to do tables, right? I'll show you. But unfortunately, this is taking a little bit time to load. So let's do this. Thankfully, I have my admin account open in another browser, and I've got some more advanced visualizations. I've got some displays that I already made, and I can click here and I'll show you. If it loads, hopefully it does. Yeah. Okay, hopefully it cooperates. Hopefully. Yeah, it's taking a little bit of time. It also depends on time of the day, and it also depends on how many things you have open on your PC, which processes you currently have running, and so on. Okay? So I have to try to close as many browsers as I can, close as many applications as I can, and that should. Okay. So now what I do, I can close this out, I can get back to my landing page, and when this happens, you can try to clear your, you could try to clear your browser cookies and then go back in, right? You could try that. But here it is. Oh, here it is. This is the visualization I was going to show, and this is also explained in your in the slides. So let me try to open it. Let me try to get into the focus mode, and I have to click on edit. I have to be in edit mode first, and then I have to click on this corner here to get into the focus mode. Okay, so here it is. Oops, what I did here, it's a bar plot, right? This is a bar plot. In here, I selected the class rank. So each bar plot corresponds to the class rank, and I selected the color code for the student health, right? So I want to have a different color code for health, right? Then what I also did is that the height of the bar is the number of absences, average number of absences, right? And notice that this is a stacked, right? I'll show you what I did. In the format here, in the formatting, there is an option to choose the variation, and I chose the variation stacked. See this? You can do this. You can click on variations, and in the variations, this is what I did. I selected stacked, right? And then what I did here was I changed the colors. I changed my colors. And you can have the element color. This is what I did. I selected brown, and then I refreshed this, right? And I selected this color scheme. So that's what I did. So basically, to create this, I started from scratch. I selected the bar plot visualization. I chose the class rank for each bar here, right? And the bar height is the number of absences, average number of absences, and I wanted to do it by health, right? By the health. So see this? This is what I did here. So let me minimize that, right? Oops, now it won't. I'm exiting the focus mode, and then I'm gonna show you another one. This shows the relationship. So this is the variation is a bubble plot. So here every dot is going to be a county. Every dot corresponds to a county. And here, this axis is an average student GPA, and for some reason I have some values greater than 0.4. But again, we have to look at what scales they are evaluating. Now here, this is number of time the students on average visit the health center, so this is a bubble size. The color code is a class rank. right? And here, yeah, this is a number of absences, right? Here. So I have multiple measures in here, right? So this is my another visualization. But to start, I just picked the custom ones and I just specify the fields. And then I go into the format. In here, I can choose different options and variations and so on, right? So that's what I was doing here. Okay, so let me minimize that. And we've got the word cloud in here that I was showing you a little bit earlier, right? So now let's go to another tab. And we also have the grid, right? And we have the bubble plot. This is just the bubble plot. And I can click here. And for the bubble plot, you have to specify what each bubble represents. And each bubble is going to be my class rank. And the bubble size, scissors are picked rows. Basically, what the rows will do is just the number of people, right? So the size means the number of people, and I'm using different color code based on the number of absences, something like that. And you can also do the multiplier and so on, right? You have multiple dimensions here. And if you go into the visualizations, do you remember? I'll show you where it is, right? I selected the custom ones. So here, right now, let's see. Those are the custom visualizations that I did. And here, this one is a line plot. And this one, let me click here. This is interesting because what I did was specify here the x-axis, right? And you can specify the y-axis, and you have a separate line. So here I want to have a separate line for whether the student is at risk or not at risk, and then I can specify this is a class hours I selected for x-axis, and this is my y-axis, right? This is the y-axis, is changing the GPA, right? So let's minimize that. So basically, to do that, see this, when I click on the plus, it's taking me to another tab, right? So I can do this, and now I can add a new discovery, right? Remember that. So I can add a new discovery, and I select my I can select the data set that I want, and here is my risk student. I have it in my other account, and I want to do this. I want to pick the grid thing, right? I wanted to show you how to do the grid. And here, basically, I want to select the county for each row. So every row is going to correspond for the county. So let's do that, county, right? Oops. So this is my row. And for my columns, I want to do the, let's do this, let's do the class rank. Class rank, oops, and I just selected that. So that's going to be my columns, but I don't see anything yet because, see this, if I see the little asterisk, it means that I cannot skip the slot. I have to specify something, right? And I'm going to do, my plan was to do the GPA here. This is the GPA. Now, see this? This is what I just did. And this is in your slides that you will have after this session. Take a look at this. This is blank. It's because I don't have anybody in the fourth quartile in this county. I don't have anyone in the fourth quartile rank who lives in this county. Okay, that's why it's blank. Now what I did for you in the slides, I went to this here and I changed the color. And oops, what I did was I scroll down and I select I select this the background. This is what I did and I selected this for the background. That's what I did. And then I actually did this. I played more with colors because I like it to be readable. So you want to have, if you have lighter background, darker font, right? You want the instructor to be able to read your work, right? Here it is. Oops, it's taken a little bit time to refresh, but that's agreed. It's refreshing. So here, my each column is a quartile, right? My each row is a county. And here, I'm having the student GPA. I'm having the average student GPA per county. So let's minimize that. Let's see if, oops, checking the health of my, let's check the health of my non-admin account. Here it is. I must use the non-admin account for the next part of the demonstration. Take a look at this. This is your personal area. This is what you have access to. Shared area is the area that was shared with you. Okay? Now, nobody will write anything, nobody will save the work to the shared root folder because this is visible to everybody in the system. We don't want that. This is not the university work. This is going to be a group work. So what you will do when the time comes, I'm going to create study groups based on your group assignment in Leo, but this is what's going to happen. When you click on a shared folder, at the moment you see only data for Watson Analytics course and more data sets. But in a few weeks from now, you will see another folder. It's going to be Summer SU 2018, data 610, and the number here, instead of XXX, you will see your session number. So it's going to be 9040 or 9041 whenever you enrolled. You're not going to see a folder for the session where you're not enrolled, only where you are enrolled. You will see this little plus, you will expand, and here you will see the group, your group membership. For instance, for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm going to assume that I'm a member of the first team, team 1, right? It's just for the purpose of the demonstration. So let me show you again how I access this. I click on the plus next to shared, and I see the folder for my session. I'm going to expand it. This is a folder for my team. I click here, and this is everything that my teammate did, right? I'm just making an assumption that this is something that my teammate shared with me, right? And I should be able to open. This is a discovery, and this is the data, right? So whenever my teammate shares a discovery with me, they must share the data that they use to create a discovery. Otherwise, I will be getting an error. And in the slides, I put the error message in the slides. So in few weeks from now on, when you're working in your teams, and if you receive this error message, when you're working in the groups, remember that slide number 33 has an explanation, right? So here, let me show you how to share the work with your team. Right now in my personal area, right? Right now in my personal area, and suppose that I want to share this display here, or this storybook here, with my team. This is what I need to do is, I need to first, number one, I need to make sure that the storybook is closed. So I'm going to click here. Do I see it? See, if I see it listed here, it means I did not close it. Let me close this. I'm gonna close, right? I cannot share anything that is open. Now what I'm gonna do is this. I'm going to select move, and I'm going to move it to watch. I have to select shared, I have to click on the plus sign. Then I have to select my session. Look, I have to select my session. Then I'm going to click on the plus sign. Then I'm going to click on group, right? This is my group. And in my group, I can create subfolders if I want to get more organized. So now I'm going to click on move. Okay? And I'm going to click OK when it's ready. Now, here it is. It's going to ask me if I want to keep the permissions as is. Please do not change. Do yourself a favor. Do not change anything here. Keep it as is. Just do yourself a favor, because if you're not careful, you can make it in a way that you will lose access to your own work. Trust me, it happened before. I had students who lost access to their own work. It's because they weren't careful with permissions. If you do something unintentional, you would need to contact me, because I'm an administrator. I might be able to retrieve it as long as you don't delete it. So now here, I just keep permissions as is, and it will inherit the permissions from my folder. So see this is shared, and this is my folder, okay? And I'm in the group 1, and this is my display. But to see it, I have to select the display tab. Now, this is something interesting. The visualizations and the data that I used to build the storybook, they belong to me, right? I have them saved in my personal area. I have access to them, right? So here it is. When I go in, when I open the storybook, no problem. That should work. Why is it going to work? Although I did not move the displays to the folder, to the shared folder, it works because I have access to my displays in my shared folder, right? I can access it. On the other hand, another user, right? Another user goes to that folder. Well, let's just assume that the user in question does not have that many admin rights. So let's assume another user is not an admin, right? If that user finds that session and goes in there, right? So now I'm going to pretend to be that user. See this? I won't be able to. Okay, I click here, I go to group 1, right? I intentionally did something. Watch, I'm logged in as another user right now. Another group member, let's just assume it. I'm another group member. When I'm trying to open this storybook, I'm going to be getting an error. See this? See this? This is a problem. I'm your group member, right? This is your group member. Your group member is going to get an error. See this? It says three-tab findings, but it does not find the data. See this? There is no data available. But on the other hand, when you logged in, you see it, right? When you access it, there is no problem. Your group member cannot access it. Do you know why? It's because you forgot to share your displays. You see it because the displays are located now in your personal area. See this? This is your personal area. You have it here. These are the displays in your personal area. You can access. But your teammate does not have access to displays in your personal area. And when your teammate is trying to open the storybook, right, there is a problem. Do you see this? There is a problem. So now I'm going to try to preview it. I click on this, right? See this? The display cannot be found. Why is that? It's because my teammate did not share the displays. So as a teammate, I have to get in here. So right, I'm a teammate. What I have to do is, I have to do this. I have to move, and then I have to select this one. I have to select this group, right? And I'm going to keep my permissions as is. So you see what happened? The problem is when I share something with my group, I also have to share this. I have to share the displays. For the storybook to work, I must share the displays with my group, and I must share the data set with my group as well. So see this, now I'm going to move this, right, and I'll show you there's going to be another problem now. Watch. So I'm going to move all three of them, right? So now this will solve, doing this, what I'm just doing, this solved one issue, right? Well, let's intentionally keep this here. So now I'm going to go back to this account, right? And I'm going to click out, and I'm going to reopen the storybook, right? I'm going to reopen the storybook here. See this? Display not found. Now I can go another display. It's found the display, but it cannot load it. Now it's going to give me a difference. See this? We cannot access the data. Okay? Well, on the other hand, when I open it, I can access the data. Do you know why? where is the data? The data is in my folder, right? Does Yelena have access to the data in her personal area? Yes. Does her teammate have access to the data located in Yelena's personal area? No, right? So, what Yelena needs to do is, Yelena has to go back here and share her data. That will solve the problem, right? So take a look at this. Now, see this, it's trying to do something, or maybe because it might be, well now it's, see here, this display is working because it's using a different data set. The data set that specific display is using is sitting in a shared folder. But I'm still having some problems, right? So let's do this. Let's do this. See this? That's me, right? That's my account. So what I have to do is I have to go to the data. Here, see this? I have to do this. I have to move. One way to share is to move, right? I can move this to my shared, see this? And I'm going to do here, this is my session, and this is my group. So now, and I'm going to keep the permissions as is. So when my teammate will now go in, they will be able to play the storybook without a problem, right? So here, this is my teammate. See this? There is a problem here. So now my teammate is going to go back. Is going to go back, and the storybook should work. The storybook should work. So basically, the problem is when you're sharing your storybook, you have to share the displays, right? So which means the dashboards and the infographics you have to share with your team. And you also have to share the data set that you used to build the visualization. You have to share the data set you used to build the visualization, right? So now, let's show you something else. So now it's loading, it's trying to load the visualizations. What I did for you is I did this a dependency diagram in here. So basically the discovery depends on the data. If I share the discovery but not the data, my group member will be getting an error message, right? And I intentionally showed you some errors. Here, this is a dependency. In order for my display to work, I have to have the data. I have to have access to the data that would use to build the display. For the storybook to work, I have to have access to display. Like in the beginning, my second user had access only to the storybook, but no access to this dashboard, right? So that's the reason my storybook would not work. Then I gave access to the dashboard, but I didn't give access to the data. I got another problem, right? Because it could not load the visualizations without the data. Now, remember that you can use more than one copy of the data set. You can use more than one data set to build the same storybook. You can use more than one data set to build one display or one infographic, right? So just remember this diagram when you're doing the assignment, right? The group assignment. Also, you can. What I did here was I basically shared the data, right? But let me show you how to unshare the data. So I'm in here now, and I'm gonna go back to my folder here. I'm in a group 1, and if I no longer want to share the data, I have to click here, and I'm going to do this, move, and I'm going to move it back to my personal area, and I'm gonna get a warning right now. And the reason I'm getting the warning is because I have some visualizations that depend on this data set. So basically what's going to happen now is if my group members attempt to reopen anything that was built from this data set, they're going to be getting an error. But let's do this. Let's just say OK. Now, here's another something else I wanted to point out. It's because there is no recycle bin, there is no way to delete, and sometimes there is no way to undo the mistake. You want to back up your work. So instead of moving the data to the shared folder, right, to your group folder, you have an option to save it as a copy. So to do this, you can go to Refine, right, and you would need to click on Save As, right, and unfortunately, well, it has to do with, okay, so at the top you saw the Save button, right? What you have to do is, you have to save it as, you have to save a copy, and when you save it, you have to choose the group folder, right? You have an option to select the group folder. Oops, there we go. So now let me minimize it again. I try to move the browser window. Oh, but now I'm not getting the... See, that's the thing. This is what happens when you are sharing the screen at the same time, because you could have another panel covering. So when I click on this ellipsis here, there should be this save button. But I'm not going to do save. Instead, I'm going to click on the error, and I'm going to select Save As from this menu, right? And when I save as, I have an option to select the folder where I want to save. And my goal is to keep the original copy in my folder and save the copy in a group, right? So what I'll have to do is I'll have to click on the arrow, and then I have to select the shared folder as a location. See this? I did some illustration here. Oops. Well, sometimes it does it. Okay, so the idea is I want to save a copy of this work to the shared area while keeping the copy for myself, okay? I want to keep a backup copy for myself sometimes. Alright, so hopefully it will start behaving now. Okay, so basically what I had to do is I just had to do Refine and Save As, right? And I save a copy to my shared area. This is one way to share, right? Oh, here it is, it's still open. And then I would click on that Save As and just save a copy. Okay, so whenever you are working with Watson Analytics, you want to make sure the bandwidth, right? Because now I'm sharing my screen, so that's the thing. And because when you're doing a web app, the bandwidth is always going to be a bit lower, but not a problem. Okay, so what I did was here I summarized things for you. I summarized what will happen, what you're gonna get, what error messages you might get if you did not share all pieces of the storybook. You have to make sure that you share the data and the visualizations, right? So let's go back. Hopefully it will behave right now. Okay, let me go back to the landing page and I'll show you something else. You're going to click on this arrow, and this is the Analytics Exchange site. And this page has some sample storybooks. And at the moment, all the sample storybooks are free, and you may just import it to your, you may import the storybook to your personal area. So to do that, you just click on the storybook, right? For instance, I want to look at account receivable, and I'm going to click on import. So what that will do is it will import the displays, data, and the storybook. So now I'm going to hit import, and this is running the import. So make sure not to hit the browser back buttons, okay? Just let it run, right? And it will add something like this. Let's see if I have it here. Well, when it's done, I'll show you. It's going to create a folder. It's going to create a folder, and the folder will be titled Imported. And inside that folder, you will see the storybooks that were added. Okay, inside the folder, you will see the storybooks that were added. So let's get in here and let me show you. Because in my admin account, on my admin account, I have it. See that this is what it's gonna do. It's gonna do this. See this? It's gonna add this folder, and the folder is called Imported. And it's going to add a subfolder for every single storybook that you import. Right? So for example, CMO executive, right? This is a folder name, right? It's going to create this folder, and this is a displays, and then it's going to import the data, and it's going to import the storybook. It's going to import the storybook. This is what it's doing. And then I can open the storybook, and I can play around with it, okay? Okay, import complete, close. Okay, here it is. This is a storybook that I just imported, right? And take a look at this. It put a logo, and yeah, so now let's do this. Let's exit it, and let's see what it did here. As I mentioned earlier, now I click on the personal, import it, and this is gonna be imported, and it's supposed to be adding the displays. This is a account receivable, okay, and for some reason I don't see the displays. I have to look into it, because usually when you do that it adds the displays. Oh, maybe it added them to my personal. Nope. Okay, I'll have to look into it, because looks like this is what's happening. It's caching. It's not refreshing the page. So basically, once in a while you have to clear the cache, okay? Once in a while you would have to clear the cache and restart the browser, okay? So just remember to do that. Okay, let me minimize that. So that takes care of the Analytics Exchange page. What I did for you here, I also explained this menu. The Storybook, this is similar to what you have seen before. Like if I click on my displays, what's happening? Well, if I click on my, I see what I did. I put my display into the group folder. This is what I did. But let's get into the group folder then. Here it is. So this is my storybook, right? This is what I can do. I can click on this ellipsis, and this is showing me. I can rename it, I can move it, and I can delete it. But if you delete it, it's gonna be gone forever, right? Now take a look at this. I got this error. The problem is that I still have it open. I cannot rename and I cannot move a file while it's still open. I have to close it before I do that, right? So I'm gonna have to do this. I'm gonna have to, and I still have it open. Oh yeah, there we go. Do you know? I have to close it. I still had it open, so let's do this. Let's close it. You have to make sure that you close it, and then you can rename it. Now, let me tell you something important. Watson Analytics allows you to share files. However, you and your group member cannot be editing the same file at the same time. You and your group member cannot be editing the file at the same time. So when you work in a group, I need you to get into this habit. Before you log out for the day, you want to close everything. Everything that's in a shared folder, you want to close it. Otherwise, you're going to be stepping on each other's feet with your group member. Your group member could be getting error when he or she is trying to save the file, and the results are unexpected. So make sure that you close the files, make sure that you make copies, but it's impossible to make a copy of this storybook. It's impossible to save a copy of the storybook. This one can be copied. You can save it as a copy. You can do save as. The storybooks you cannot, and I checked with IBM before. Okay? So another thing is that, that was a very sad story with dependencies. Do not delete the data, because suppose that I delete this, like restaurant inspection score, and I have a visualization that depends on that, right? If I delete this, my visualization will become invalid. Even if I upload another copy of the data with the same name, it will not fix the problem. The discovery, that visualization will remain invalid forever, because each of these data sets, it has a number, internal number associated with it, and your visualization is tied up to that number. So I had a very sad story. On a day when the assignment was due, a group member deleted something which invalidated the whole work of the group. Before you delete something, please, 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 please watch out, right? Or if you think you can delete it, temporarily create folder called trash and put it in the trash. So perhaps don't delete it until after the work is due, something like that. Okay? So just be very, very careful with the delete, because administrator cannot help. There is no recycle bin, right? And also be careful with where you save the work. You will be saving the work in the group folder or in the personal area. Nothing gets saved in the shared area, because anything that lands in here, or any folder that gets created in here, anything that does not match the configuration spreadsheet, right? Anything that does not match my tracking, it's going to end up in here. This is a trash, right? This is what's gonna happen. Anything that's saved in the wrong place will end up in Yelena's trash can. And if nobody claims it, eventually it will be deleted, okay? So, and I do it for everybody's benefit. It's because when you create a display, you don't want to see your classmates' work, right? You don't want to accidentally modify their work. You don't want your class members looking for your work all over the place. Or if I'm an admin, if I need to help you, I need to know where to look for your file, right? Well, just an example. I'm giving you numerous reasons, right? And no way in the world to manage 500 plus users if there are no rules. We have to have some rules, right? Okay, so let's see. There is another thing that I wanted to show you. This is the bonus part, the joins. Sometimes, once in a while, the data that I have is stored in a more than one data set, but the data sets have a column in common. So I have the sales information and I have the customer information. The problem is the customer name is subject to change, right? So originally they wanted to store it once, but when I do this, when I click on sales, when I click on refine, the problem is I cannot really do analysis because, well, take a look at this. I have this product number and I have a customer ID, and I don't have any information about the customer. I have a separate data set on customers. So sometimes you want to do the join. Look at what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to click on a plus sign, and it's in my personal area, and I'm going to select a customer. Right? I'm going to select a customer. I'm going to click on OK. So now I have two data sets here. Well, the limit is 2. Okay, so here, this is a customer. In general, how would I want to know who that person is, right? I would have to take this number, 587, go here and look it up, right? It's inconvenient. So what you could do is this. You can join these two guys here on a column in common. So customer ID and customer ID. I take this and I drag this, right? There we go. So this is the joint data set that I'm gonna get now. And you see the different color code, right? Based on the data set where the field is being pulled. And you want to make sure, see this? The customer ID in this column matches the customer ID in that column. Okay, so here I'm displaying just the matching rows. I have an option to include the customers who don't have any orders. There are several types of joins, and in this case I'm using a join only. I want to list only the customers that have an order, right? Because there are other join options. Okay, if you want to, you can play around, but for right now, for this demonstration, let's just keep it simple. So here, right, this is, I can just minimize this, and this is going to be my data, right? This is the data. And I must save it as under different name, and I can use it for my analysis, right? I can save this under a different name and use it for analysis. So let's go back here. Well, you don't see it because I did not save it, right? So I have to do this. I have to save it. But the thing is, when a portion of the screen starts with a panel, yeah. So I would have to, what I'll have to do is here, I would have to zoom in, right, to make the menu appear on this side. See this? Then I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do save as, and I'm going to give it a name, right? So I'm gonna say this, sales_customer. Well, and I realize that I also have a separate data set for the product, but unfortunately today you can only join two. You cannot join more than two. Okay, so this is in general something advanced for you. Now let's see where we are. I showed you this. Oh yes, here are two sample expert storybooks by ABM Maximo, and you can actually go on YouTube, and there is a video that does an explanation on what that storybook has. So this is the reason I put these links, because the storybook is available at the Analytics Exchange site, and you can look at the videos. So those sample storybook give you an idea for your assignment. You're not going to turn it in for grading, but you have to look at the sample. That's how you do that, right? You look at the samples to give you an idea on how to do your own one. Here I summarized, right, different permissions. So basically, just to explain, the view only, you have a view only permission for the data set in a shared folder. So in this data set, you have view only permissions. It means that you can open them, but you cannot edit them, and you cannot grant access to your classmates on them, right? So right now I'm logged in as a student, and when I logged in as a user rather, right, I'm not going to be able to do anything. I just see refine, export, and asset information. On the other hand, if I log in as an admin, right, for instance, data for Watson Analytics course, I'm logging in as an admin, and an admin has a full control, right? I see more options. So that's basically what it means. Your access level depends on whether you are an admin and what folder you're looking at. For instance, everything that you have in your shared folder, well, you're going to have, see, this is my shared folder, you're going to have the permission to edit, and you're going to have a permission to refine, but you will not be able to grant permissions to somebody who is not in your session, perhaps, right? You will not have access to modify the permissions. You will not have access to modify the permissions on your folder. The folder will be visible only to you. You can only see the folder that's yours. Yeah. So when the permission is set to none, then it means that when you have no permissions on a folder, you don't see it, right? It's out of your view. Like, for instance, suppose this is my student. Suppose this is a student account, right? And as an admin, I configured some of the folders that to be not visible, right? You cannot see the folders from last semester, perhaps, right? So that all has to do about the permission. You don't need to know much for the assignment. What you need to know is that do not change anything, and the files that you upload into your group folder will inherit the permissions set on a folder. Okay? I think of it this way. And I guess here I just put a summary of how to access your group folder. Okay? And I just summarize the differences, right? And how to verify that the file was moved or saved as a copy successfully, right? And so what else I did for you here, I put some useful links. This is a helpful resources on Watson Expert Storybooks, right? So now I'm gonna, guys, let you ask me questions. I would like to see questions, and I really love students who ask questions. Yeah. Answer questions. Well, remember that Elena starts asking questions when nobody has questions. Let me see the chat. Okay, I don't see anything in the chat. Well, the only questions I saw about XML. Oh, can you view data dependency? Oh, I see the question. Kevin, excellent question. The question is if I can view data dependencies in Watson Analytics. Oh, this is an excellent question. I wanted to add this to the wish list. Kevin, I'm with you on the same page. I wanted to add this to the wish list. Honestly, I wish there was a way to see it. Well, unfortunately, there's no. I cannot really tell unless I do some playing around with this. The way I did it, I moved the data set and then my discovery started working. So that's a problem. When you're working on it, you want to take notes for yourself on dependencies because it's very easy to get lost, and I had students lose the work. It happened on a day when assignment was due, but the good news, they at least saved the screenshot so we could look at it as imaginary pages of the storybook. So make sure that you save screenshots. Please, please, please do that at least. Okay, so make sure you save the screenshots and make sure you move the correct files. Well, one way to do that probably is that, well, it depends how an instructor will be grading it. So suppose that if an instructor will be logging in as you to one of your accounts just to verify the work, you want to log in as yourself first to verify that you are able to view the storybook as normal, right, without any errors. Well, it depends on, I would need to look at your assignment requirements. It depends how the work is graded. Do you need to submit the screenshot, or do your instructor actually logs in to check the work you did? Then here the presentation comes into play, right? You want the storybook have a flow. It means in which order you have the pages, and you want no spelling errors and so on, right? Descriptive comments. And, well, Kevin, I'm going to be with you. So if I add it to the wish list, I want you to vote on it. Please, 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 because that would be helpful, right? Steve, do you get the question? The question is, how do I see the dependencies?
Yeah, that would be a really good thing to have, wouldn't it?
I wish.
There's a lot more insights you could provide, or IBM could provide within the program, but maybe that'll happen as they continue to revise it.
Yeah, because otherwise I can delete something and then it's gonna be well, no, that's a story. It happened. Yep. Well, do you see more questions? Okay, yes, I see the questions. Does renaming the data set destroy dependency? No. Excellent questions. Okay, when I rename the data set it does not destroy the dependencies. No. Because this is what happens. Let me show you this. Look, asset information. There is each asset. Oh, I cannot see it here. But internally, each asset has an ID. But to see it, you have to look at the error message. The error message is going to show me this. There is a copy of the error message in here. Do you see this? This is the ID of the data set. So this is an error message I got when I attempted to open the display. And I got this error because the data was not shared. And this is the data set ID. See this? This is the error. Each data set has an ID. See? This is the data set ID that is missing. The discovery cannot open the data. Right. But the problem is which data set has this ID. The data set information does not tell me that. If there was an ID, then it would be easier. Right? But unfortunately, and even for discoveries, I don't know who created it. If I knew who created it, right, it would help me, and it would help you too. If you saved it in the wrong location by accident, I would know whose work it is. I could contact you and just move it to your area, to your personal area, right? But no, renaming the data set does not destroy the dependencies, but deleting does, okay? If you move it, you may temporarily lose access to it. Well, it depends. Let's say it depends. But there is a dependency, okay? Well, when I demonstrated using 2 users, my first user could play the storybook without a problem. It's because the files were located in my personal area. but the second user does not have access to my personal area. So, well, that was my intent to show you, because it's gonna happen when you start working in groups. You'll see this type of errors all the time. Yeah. Yeah, but those are excellent questions, Karen. So let's see. I don't see any questions. I want to see questions. This is excellent questions. I like it. Yeah, and if I ever don't have an answer for something, then I will do research and get back to you. So feel free to ask questions at any time. Right? Steve, is there anything that I may have missed?
No, again, very thorough as always, Yelena, and I want to remind everyone that being able to tell the story, being able to display, articulate, interpret, explain what you've done with the analytics is becoming more and more a key role for data scientists, because the calculations now are done internally and are trivial for the scientists to do. So we've changed quite a bit. So being able to do this and interpret in a nice, insightful way what you've done with meaningful graphics is becoming more and more important. You'll hear that mentioned over and over again throughout the MSDA program. And so it's good to get your feet wet and learn that you can create different kinds of visualizations, different kinds of displays that show different insights. And that's really the key, not just creating fancy-looking stuff, but does provide insights to help explain the analytics that you've done. Okay? Well, I'm going to stop the recording, and of course we will post, your faculty members will post the link, and Yelena will provide the slides she used tonight. Yes. And again, I want to thank her for another very thorough presentation. And let me go and stop the recording.
Oh, there's a question. There's a question.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No problem. The question is if you have access to export the storybook. Oh wait, what does it mean? The last question I have tonight is slightly off topic. Do we have access to the export function anymore? Oh, export? Well, you mean export data sets? Yes, you do. Yes, you do. What happened? The export data sets? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. But only if it's, well, if the data set in the personal area, you should be able to export it. Export. Oh. Exporting data in CSV? Oh, okay, then it's in CSV. Yeah, here. I click on export, and then I click on export, and then I click on export again. Now I have to wait a little bit, and when my export is ready, I'm going to get a notification. See, now I have to wait, and then at the top of the screen, I'm going to get a notification. See this, and then, see, this is a notification, and then I have to click on this notification. Ooh, what happened? Earlier, I could click on the notification to get export. Let's see, it should be working. Oh, that's an old notification. I see. Basically, what you do is you click on export, then when it's ready, you're going to receive a notification. And when you receive a notification, then you can download. But I'm not sure why it's not working today. Well, sometimes it could be temporarily turned off. Sometimes it could be temporarily turned off as they're doing something else. But you can also do this. Let's do this. Take a look at this. You can do refine, and then when you refine it, there should be the icon to export. There should be. I just have to zoom in. I have to zoom in. Okay, here it is. You can do this. It should be. Oops. And I'm gonna click on export. Oh, you're about to export, and you click export. Well, it was working. It's highly possible that something may have been turned off, or Watson Analytics, team might be doing something. But in general, this is how you export, but I'll keep you posted. They might be doing something. Oh, okay. You posted, ask it, yeah, I have not successfully been able to export. Oh yes, thank you. So what I'll do is, tomorrow I'm going to go and look at the forums, because if this is a global problem, then there is an issue. But you don't need to export, okay? You don't need to export. I already, yes. Oh, okay. The export, maybe it's not working. It might be global issue. So when something like that happens, uh, then you post it, and your TA, right, could ask me, and then I will take a look if there are any known issues. What is the best way to cleanse the data if you do not export? Well, you don't need to cleanse the data, Tamara, because the data set that I uploaded, the data that are in a shared folder, it's already done for you. But what we made in the requirements by data cleansing is that you want to create your groupings, you want to create your variables, then you identify which fields you want to use, which fields you don't want to use for predictions. Because, like, for example, see this, my field here is state. I don't want to use this as a predictor because every single record has the same state, right? Well, things like that. Okay, it says, the question is, you try to export the file to Excel? No, you don't need to export the file to Excel. Steve, there is a question. Is there a requirement to export the data to Excel to do cleansing?
No, as you mentioned, your files are already fairly clean, and they can do things like changing the range and all for sliders and all, and create new variables. Now, if they're uploading their own data sets,
Then yes.
then they'd have to cleanse them before they upload them.
Oh.
They did have that cleansing option in IBM, but not for our use, and only from IBM data sets, data programs. So it wouldn't help you. So you have to do your you look for your missing variables and all, and replace them and all. And you have to do all that before you upload your own data sets. But the ones Yelena's uploaded are in good shape. You can still do some manipulations with them, but you really don't need to cleanse them, so to speak.
Yeah, that's what I did. My intent was like this because I wanted to make sure the data set that used are suitable for the assignment, and I don't want anybody to be sitting and spending hours on trying to clean the data because, well, I've had students who would spend hours and no time left to do the actual assignment. Yeah, so there's no need to export. Don't worry about that, please. Yeah. Don't worry about exporting, okay? Okay, sure. And don't hesitate to ask, because I don't want you to be sitting there and spending the whole day on something that does not need to be done, right? Because the focus of the last assignment was to create the model, right? So you just work on building the model. Well, right? Yeah. Did I?
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Yelena. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. I don't see any more questions. So let me go ahead. And again,